You need to start reading manga as soon as possible. But first let me tell you why I do and how I got here. I first started reading manga when I was still very young. And when I say young, I'm talking about really young, like before my teen years. Damn near before I could even walk, I think. I was probably like 5 years old when I saw my first anime, and it was Dragon Ball Z. Unsurprisingly, I would watch Dragon Ball Z along with a lot of other animes later on, like Inuyasha, Yu Yu Hakusho, Cowboy Bebop. The list goes on. Bo. I think Lupin the Third was airing during that time as well. I wouldn't watch Bubble though, it was just too weird. For those of you that know what that is, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about it being weird. Now at the time, I didn't really know a lot of these were anime, since I would watch them alongside American cartoons that weren't really much different art style wise, so it was just one big cartoon channel to me. And since I didn't even know there were anime, I definitely didn't even know what manga was at that point, like at all. Even as I got older and I could understand more about books and anime, and I knew what anime was at that point, I still didn't really know what manga was. Like, I had heard about it, but I didn't think shows like Dragon Ball Z had a manga. I didn't think like shows like Naruto had a manga, or any of those really, since most cartoons in America don't really have light novels or have cartoon books. I mean, some do, like comic books, but I was never really into those either. But a lot of the cartoons I would watch didn't have like a book prior to them being aired on TV at all. So like I was saying, as time went on, I never really had the urge to read manga. Once I really knew what it was about and actually knew that it was tied to anime, and then I would watch videos on how is anime tied to manga. Now, why do I say I never really had the urge to read manga? It's not because I hate reading. As a matter of fact, I love reading, even though most of the books I read growing up were more like an educational wise aspect, on the more education genre, maybe a little bit of fantasy, but like 90% education, like how to do stuff or how to draw and things like that. So manga never seemed worth it to me. I felt like it would take too long to read the book instead of just watching the show. And I was the same way with American cartoons also. I wouldn't read the Batman books, Spider-Man books, none of that. So it's not like I was just like biased towards manga alone. It was just everything cartoon-based book I never really read. So before I get deeper into why I got into manga recently this year, I want to first talk about what is manga for those that may not be sure like I was. Now I want to just give you guys a quick Google definition of it to make it easier and simpler to understand. Manga is a style of Japanese comic books and graphic novels, typically aimed at adults as well as children. So that's a pretty well put together definition of it. Very straightforward, encapsulates pretty much what it is at a very basic level. It's just Japanese comics, the way the United States has Marvel and DC and many others that I'm sure are out there. I just don't know them because I'm just not familiar with them. But that's basically all it is. Kind of reminds me of when I first started even reading other things aside from manga. Like, I recently discovered manhwas, and I kind of thought they were something completely different, but it's just manga but for Korean comics. So it's basically the same thing all around. They're all just comic books. So I want to talk about why is manga worth reading. First thing I want to talk about is getting ahead of great anime. And when I say getting ahead of great anime, I'm talking about good anime like One Piece, maybe some Naruto back in the day, Bleach, especially with the new Bleach coming out recently. The Blood arc is coming out. I'm sure a lot of people that read ahead once the original Bleach ended, they're extremely hyped for it and couldn't wait, so they went ahead and read the story even further. So that's a good reason to to read manga, is to keep on going with the storyline if you're impatient like me. Another reason to read manga is just the simplicity of being able to read. Is just very relaxing sometimes. The aesthetic factor of seeing the black and white pages, just being able to imagine how they sound, how they look, the colors of how would it all come together. It's just a nice aspect of reading manga as a whole, which was really surprising to me because the black and white is kind of what held me back from it pretty hardcore for a while, but I slowly got into it and ended up liking it, surprisingly. Another reason I want to talk about why it's good to read manga is being able to find badass gems in a world of shitty anime. That's one of the reasons that I really got into manga recently this year, is because a lot of anime that came out last year and a little bit in the beginning of this year just were really hard to watch. They sucked. I found myself watching anime just because there was nothing else to watch. No other good shows, nothing worthwhile. So I felt kind of trapped, forced to watch these lame isekais that honestly suck. They're all very similar. And like that 1 or 2 or 3 good shows that would come out, but the other 90% or 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, whatever, were just really like scratching a chalkboard to watch. Something good that come out of all that grueling headache of having to watch these animes. I was forced to go and read better stuff. Now another good reason to read manga is also because you get to help out the creators more. From what I've heard or read, or the little minimal research I've done, is that the creators get more money in their pockets by you buying the manga itself instead of watching it from streaming services or hopefully you're not looking at things illegally, I guess you could say. People tend to pirate a lot of this stuff, and I don't recommend it because a lot of it might not be accurate. You might be missing some wording or grammatical errors. It just changes the whole storyline up. That's kind of something I ran into when I saw a page of a manga in Google, and then I read the actual manga from like Viz Media, their book, and it was completely different. Like the idea was there of what they were saying, but the whole environment, the whole situation it created was so different because of the way it was worded. So I don't recommend going anywhere else except the proper publishers. And it's just nice to help them out. They put a lot of work into these. It's their sweat and tears, and it's just nice being able to help them and still give yourself something cool to look at. Another reason to read a manga is it's dope to have physical books. I'm a big book person. If you love books like I do, having the actual physical book to read and hold and just go through, and you can take anywhere you like and just get a break from your phone is a real big plus for me. I also love the cover art that they come with. I got two I want to show right here. You probably saw them in the thumbnail. There's one right here that I'm gonna read soon, Goblin Slayer. I saw the anime already, but I would like to read this, the light novel, just to see how it is. Another one that I really liked, and I did kind of make a video on it, is Chainsaw Man. Like, look at this. It's badass. Like, it's just dope. You can take this anywhere where you want with you. Just quick little books to just for on the go. And it's just good to put it on your bookshelves. Add some nice color to your room, some variety, nice little touch and aesthetic shelf to look at instead of like a black and white school fucking textbooks and shit like that. And then once you start getting better at reading manga and get more into it, you can start ruining your friends' shows whenever you want. So those are the few reasons I think it's worth it to read manga. There's just a lot of pros to it. You get to do all that of getting ahead, good shows that aren't gonna come out for a while. You'll never have a lack of good shows, I guess you could say. Aesthetically pleasing, all that. Now I want to talk about why it may not be worth it for you to read manga. And I think these are pretty important, and were pretty important to me at first, and is what kind of also kept me away from manga for a very long time. The first one I want to talk about, spoilers. Spoilers in anime suck. I think we can all agree that shit sucks. You're like, I can't wait for the next episode, but I don't want to be told what is gonna happen until I've seen it. And I remember a lot of people would spoil it, a lot of manga readers would spoil it, and I would kind of get mad. I was like, fuck, well, I already know who's gonna die now. Fuck it, I don't even want to watch it, but you still watch it, and it's still badass either way. But you kind of just, I like having that surprise factor when you watch something. That's what kind of adds like a double effect of, just excitement and awe when you watch a show and you don't know what the hell's gonna happen. So that's what kind of kept me away from it. I didn't want to ruin shows for myself for a long time, so that's why I was like, no, I don't want to read it. I just wait till it comes out. Another reason that was also pretty big for me, and this one might sound kind of dumb for a lot of people, it was the black and white. As much as I like it now, before the thought of it just sounded like it would suck. I was kind of like, damn, we're living, is the 21st century, it's 2022. Who reads black and white pages of anything? The newspaper, I guess, but even the newspaper has some, I think, a little bit of color these days. And that really kept me away from manga for a very long time. I didn't think I would enjoy or could get into reading black and white manga panels. But if you're able to get over that, I definitely recommend it. It's not the biggest hurdle. It's actually just very minuscule, very minimal problem when it comes to manga. And I read that they are in black and white because it would cost a lot more money. It would take a lot longer for them to publish and bring out the chapters. So that's very understandable. I can see where they're coming from there. Which brings me to my next point, kind of is linked to that. It is the price. The price of manga is pretty high for a book. Especially when some places give you books for free, or you can get a membership at a library for like, was it like $5 a month, and a lot of them are even free, I think, the membership, and you can get an abundance of books. So when you go buy a book and it costs $10-15 per book, and the manga is like 20 volumes, it adds up a lot. So that was a big turnoff for me. When I first started looking for manga, I saw $5 I was like, okay, but then I saw $10, $15, $8, $9 in the worst. I bought Chainsaw Man, all 11 volumes, for about $7 each. There's 11 of them, so that came out to $77 with shipping and tax and everything. It was $80, $85. I got Prime shipping with Amazon. So it wasn't the worst, but if I was to get the full series for an anime like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, or One Piece, I don't even want to think about how much money you'd have to spend. Easily hundreds and hundreds, 300, 400, I don't know. I don't need, And that's out of the budget for a lot of people. That's just too much money to spend when you can watch it for a lot cheaper on a streaming service. And another thing will also come into effect is the lack of space. If you don't got much bookshelf space, you don't got much space in your room, buying a shit ton of manga is really gonna be a headache to organize and to put where it doesn't look too cluttered. I hope to maybe read some, maybe then sell some, give them away once I get tired of them, and you know, let somebody else enjoy them. But if you got some spare change on the side and you really love an anime and you just want the manga itself, then I would recommend you buy one or two. It's just nice to have. It's just cool to have. And if you can't afford the manga but you still want to read it, you can go to like Viz Media, I believe it is, the shonen website. You can pay like $2 or $3 a month and watch the anime for read the manga for a lot cheaper. $2 or $3 compared to a $10 book. It's a no-brainer. I just like personally having a physical copy. Now, when I first started reading manga earlier this year, I read like a few pages of some from online on the Viz website. I never really got too into them. I finished maybe like 1 or 2 volumes, but I just really wanted to have a physical book. So obviously the first one I bought that I finished from start to reading was Chainsaw Man. I finished this one after the other. I binge read it like an animal. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I can't wait for the next one to come out, and I can't wait till it's physically published. So I'm just gonna end up reading it on the website, which might be better because it'll save me a lot of money on the long run. Now the next manga I plan on reading and going further in is probably JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm a huge JoJo fan. I wish I would have read the manga a long time ago because I'm on part 6 that just came out with Jolene, I believe it is. Yeah, part 6. Part 5 is extremely dope. I love it. It's badass. I want to see what the other JoJos are gonna be like. Part 7, part 8. I don't know how far they are along in the anime right now. I still would have to look into that, but it's just really dope. It just sucks, you know, like I said, the price and all that really does take like a pretty big chunk out your wallet after a while. So that's about it. Those are the pros and cons when it comes to reading manga, how I kind of slowly got into it over time due to a lack of quality animation out there at the moment. Even though right now there's a lot of badass shows, it really helps to be able to have a bigger library of stuff to read and get into. I definitely recommend you guys go give manga a try if you haven't. The spoiler aspect isn't too bad, to be honest. I thought I would hate it more, but to be honest, after reading Chainsaw Man, I can't wait till it gets animated. Reading it a second time, I almost thought about reading it a second time, but watching it a second time is just going to be as badass, even more badass, because now I see it in motion and color and effect. So I thought I was gonna lack all that excitement once I read it, but to be honest, I think it's even bigger than before. So that was a nice pro that came out of reading manga that I feared I wouldn't have at the end of it. So if you guys liked this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about manga. Is it worth reading? Do you read it? Are you like, fuck that, you know, I don't like spoilers, I don't like reading, whatever? Let me know in the comments. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time.